Ba 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 da ba da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba ba da ba 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 da ba da ba da da ba da ba da boo 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 da ba 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 bum 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 ba da da dum bum bum ba dum ba ba dum ba da da dum da da dum da da dum dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum bum ba da dum ba da da dee dee doo da dee 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 da 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 ba da 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 dun 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 dun. Hi. Hi. Hey, look at you. Look at all of you. It's wonderful. You. You're looking good, right? Life is good. Yes, life is good. Life is good, my friends. Why? Because we've got solutions. We've got a way to work with our family's problems, for our own problems. We've got a method that unfortunately many others don't have. And we do want them to get onto it, but meanwhile, it's ours. And so, hi, I'm Joette Calabrese. I'm a homeopath. I meet you absolutely every single Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to do what? To study, to learn homeopathy, so that you know how to use this medicine. And that's my goal. And for those of you who don't know me, welcome. And it's always a pleasure to have someone new join us. Well, here we've got Anna Charlotte says she's a relatively new as well. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. Let's get things started, shall we? Let's get going. Let me just get my Facebook business started up again. Let's just see if we can get some of my comments starting up so that I can read them as well as my mighties, my dear mighties. My mighties are private. I can share things that I wouldn't otherwise share on the internet. And yeah, I'm clicking on, been doing that, clicking on that video. There it is. Okay, here we go.
My 90s are private.
There we go. Yep. Okay. All righty. So let's get started. Let's talk about this medicine. And the way I put it out there the other day was great debility, chronic fatigue, and anemia. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have all three of these, but if you do, or if someone you know does, this could be a great medicine. It's not a very commonly used medicine. It's not something you're going to find very readily on the internet to show this or that condition. But you do need to know this medicine, and it is called natrum, natrum, and the second word is carbonicum. Some people just say nat carb. I say potato. You say potato. Potato. I say potato. You say potato. Let's call the whole thing off. So, natrum carbonicum or nat carb, we can say it either way. And I like this medicine in 200 potency. And so it's a very good medicine for chronic fatigue. You bet. Chronic fatigue, also ailments from the sun. Now, I don't mean a sunburn. I mean when someone gets sick from just having been in the sun. It's not a burn from over exposure to the sun. It has more to do with a kind of a fatigue that comes from that. When the person feels completely wiped out. Now, a lot of people feel that way after the sun, and so I mean, if it goes to the wayside pretty quickly, then I wouldn't worry about it. But if instead it persists, or it's how shall we say, is intense, then I might use natrum carbonicum. Now I'm talking about something that's rather acute, right? And I don't want to talk about just acutes because I know that what most people are looking for is answers to chronic conditions. And that's the difference between the way I teach homeopathy and others might, because I believe that you are smart enough to know what to do if I teach you some basic rules and some basic medicines with their potencies and frequencies. I believe that you can take care of chronic conditions. So, what are the chronic conditions that we deal with when we're looking at Natrium carbonicum 200C? Well, I would look at, as I said, anemia. It's not my first choice for anemia. We have other ones, and I think I've covered that on my blog. But even if I haven't, I want you to think about this as a possibility for anemia. And then I also want you to think of this medicine as one that is specific for chronic fatigue in general. Now, chronic fatigue in general, but even more so when the chronic fatigue is associated with, really interesting, isn't this? With environmental illness. Oh, yes. Chronic fatigue associated with environmental illness. Now, what do I mean by environmental illness? Well, those of you who suffer it or suffer from it know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, it is a medicine that is used for environmental illness, which means chemical sensitivities and multiple sensitivities and food intolerances and dairy intolerances. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Yes, it is interesting. And it's also a medicine that has other ailments from the sun, such as sun allergy, headaches from the sun. Now, look, you know that you can get a headache from the sun. Sometimes it's not the sun, sometimes it's the heat, but it is a headache related to the sun. But it's also can be from overheating, but very specifically, I want you to remember this medicine in relationship to sun. Okay. It's also, as I said, food intolerances, gastritis, peptic ulcers. Now, we go through my Materia Medica every week, and that's what we're doing right now. And I will show you what the Materia Medica looks like, should you be interested in purchasing it at some time. I've got a lot of notes I'm going to take out of here. And it's it's inexpensive and easy to use. It's not the only Materia Medica. I say this every single week. There are many, for those of you who are new, there are many Materia Medicas. And I want you to know that because this is a very rudimentary, very simple, quick reference, kind of a desktop guide, especially for those who are just starting in homeopathy and even for those who are a little bit more seasoned and need to have something that they can go to quickly. But then we have much more in-depth Materia Medicas, not I, but other homeopathic authors have their own Materia Medicas, and they're all very useful. I own many of them. Last count was something like 34 different Materia Medicas. So you don't need to own that many. And I will also tell you that Dr. James Tyler Kent's Materia Medica is online at no cost. And so is Dr. Boriki's. So I want you to think of that. Use those Materia Medicas. Take what I tell you today, write it down, and then I want you to go to those and read up on them, particularly if you think this is a medicine that you need to know about. I don't want you to just get my take on it. I'm going to give you a take that is more in depth by directing you to other authors. All righty. Okay, so food allergies, especially sensitive to milk, and they're sensitive to other foods as well, and especially chemicals. Now, I've kind of made that clear, but I want to make that super clear because what happens when they have milk? What happens when they have gastritis? What happens if they have headaches from the sun? What happens? Often, what happens is they get fatigue, a chronic fatigue. So that's why I say this is a great medicine for chronic fatigue. It's not my only one, and it's actually not even my first choice. I like China 200 for chronic fatigue. I like Cali muriaticum and ferrum phos for anemia and fatigue. But this is a good one, Natrium carbonicum. All righty. Let me just see what else I've got here. Yeah. Here's something I want you to think about too, particularly because it's a sun medicine, medicine that's worse from the sun. I want you to think about it also as medicine that's worse from weather, certain kinds of weather. Some people tell me whenever it rains, I get thus and so. Whenever it's outside, my fatigue is very heavy, or I don't have fatigue until it happens. That's what we're looking for. So allergies. And also I want you to think about um, eczema. It's a good medicine for eczema. Now, eczema is often, not always, but is often associated with the gut, food intolerances, inability to digest properly, um, as a result of a poisoning. What kind of poisoning? What could I be talking about? Antibiotic poisoning. Yes, my friends. I'm not going to tell you one would never use antibiotics, but they are used indiscriminately and they cause problems in the long run. So, what they do is they kick the can down the road as used as a preventative. Then, shortly after, the person can no longer have dairy, which I believe is a very good food, particularly if it's good dairy, from cows that are pastured and raw, if possible, or fermented milks. All of those, I think, are very good foods. And if we can't ingest them, don't blame your stomach or your body. Why not blame the drug that caused it in the first place? That's what we have to look at. Now, a lot of times people get sick and they say, um, ever since I had that bronchitis, I've never been well. Well, it could have been the bronchitis that could have set up a long term condition, but often it's the treatment of the condition, of the disease, of the bronchitis. What was the treatment? Oh, antibiotics. Now that makes sense why the gut can no longer handle certain foods that we should be able to eat, particularly if we are of European blood originally, because the Europeans drank milk. They had cows, they had goats, right? Other parts of the world, certain parts of Africa had cows or have cows and goats. They should be able to eat and drink dairy. Now, the Inuits, I get it. They did not have cows. They had fish. They have blubber. They have whale. They have plankton. Those are the kinds of things they eat. So I can understand if they can't have dairy as readily as the European, those with a European background or an African background. Certain parts of Asia, India, yes. Dairy, yes. High quality dairy. And I hope you know what I mean by high quality dairy. And I'm going to reiterate it just to make sure people understand. I believe high quality dairy is yogurt with the cream on top, of course, without all the sweeteners. No, 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 plain yogurt. Yogurt, kefir, good quality kefir, preferably like buttermilk, very good. Sour cream, all very good, particularly if they are unpasteurized. Yes, raw. Yes. So I do want you to think about that. Um, yes, I'm reading some of your comments here. They're really good. And you know that if I say something and you miss it, wait till this is loaded up at the end of the evening. Usually by tomorrow, it's loaded up, and watch it again, and you'll get all the extra. You'll get the information once again. Okay, let's see what people are saying. Dr. David Brownstein wrote a book on dairy and said it is very bad for humans. Yeah, that's his opinion. But thousands of years, or a couple thousand years, maybe only hundreds, but many hundreds of years, people have lived on dairy. And I'm sorry, I totally disagree. Now, if you can't have dairy, that tells me that there's something off. And it means it needs to be treated so that we can fix that, right? So, David Brownstein, how about checking out Weston Price? Okay, who's done not just a book, but many, many books and lots of research. So you can talk about the China study. I'm sorry, don't buy it. And their opinions for just about every food category there is. And after having been personally a vegan, oh yes, I was for years. a very studied vegan. And a very committed vegan for years. And before that, it was just plain vegetarian. Then I went vegan. Then I also went macrobiotic for a few years. Yes, my friends, I'm old enough to have done it all. And then what I saw from a vegan diet, what it did to my young child, I only had one at the time. I was so dismayed. I knew that what had happened to him was as a result of the diet, because what came about for him was nothing that my husband nor I ever had any problems with. Yes, raw milk is a whole meal. You bet. Absolutely. What if we do come from ancestors that didn't eat dairy? Then it's worth a try. I think it's still worth a try, particularly if you like it. All right. My favorite brand of yogurt is Hawthorne Valley. There are other good ones, but I like Hawthorne Valley, perhaps because I'm from New York and I used to be able to get it very readily. But now I get raw dairy in Florida. And it's not as hard as you might think. You just have to connect with the Weston Price Foundation's blog or website, I should say, and find out who your local rep is, your local chapter leader, and find out who has how you can get it. It depends on where you live. Now, if you live in Ontario, now it's another story. Yes, my friends. It was Ontario is a very, very difficult place to get anything like that. Okay, what about fatigue from being in the sun, from overheating, and an accompanying feeling of burning of the skin? Not a sunburn, just excruciating skin pain. I would definitely use this medicine. Now, will it help with the excruciating pain in the skin? No, I would not think of that. No, I would certainly use Natrum carbonicum 200C, perhaps twice daily for something like that. But I would also look at something that's a medicine that has burning skin. Anybody want to share that with this person? I didn't get her name. Lisa. Anybody have an idea for Lisa? What you would use for burning skin after having been in the sun? That's not necessarily a sunburn. Okay. We get raw dairy here in, where are we looking at? I can't read it. Foxborough, Mass. You bet. See, Massachusetts, Connecticut. You can get it in New York even. Yes. Urtica urens, cantharis. Good choices. Monica, Pamela, those are very good choices. Suzanne. Urtica, I don't think of so much as burning. I think of it more as itching and stinging and that kind of sensation. Cantharis. Cantharis is a very good choice, my friends. Everybody's cantharis. But there's one more that I would think of. Anybody have any other ideas besides cantharis? And I would use it actually in a 30 every few hours. That's the way I always look at it. Arnica is a great medicine for skin. Arnica, absolutely. Very, very good choice. Yes, you bet. Heat stroke is glenoidum, says Monica. You're right. Now, Natrum carbonicum can be heat stroke. Can be a remedy for heat stroke. So it's not my first choice for heat stroke. I always think of glenoidum. Kelly Muir. Okay, Apis, arsenicum. I love the little question marks afterwards. You're really funny. What do we have here? Anybody else? Apis, arsenicum. Come on, there's one. Belladonna, Evelyn says. That's it. I would think of belladonna too. Yes, especially if it was red and it was hot, if it felt hot. Yes, spray. Thank you, Monica. Spray arnica 30 on the skin. Just like my friend Joe de Oliveira has taught us all. He is the one who taught me how to use that. Yes, belladonna. Belladonna, beautiful woman. Absolutely. So this medicine, this Natrum carbonicum, is great for fatigue, even if it's not related to food intolerances or environmental illnesses or sensitivity to chemicals. It can simply be anemia and fatigue. Well, of course, anemia often is associated with fatigue, of course. But if you can put together a three-legged stool, so it's, let's say, fatigue, anemia, and ailments from the sun, or a headache from the sun, you got it. Now you got something there. That's when I would use Natrum carbonicum 200C. And I would use it, I've used it in a 30 twice daily, and I've also used it in a 200 twice daily. Now, for how long do we use this for, my friends? We use it for about, generally speaking, when we're dealing with a chronic condition, chronic meaning the environmental illness, the chronic fatigue, chronic condition, we're going to use it for approximately a few weeks and assess. We're going to assess at the end of those couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, sometimes as long as 6 to 8 weeks. But if someone gets worse from taking a medicine, a homeopathic medicine, do not think when you're using it this frequently that it means you're going to get better. We do not see aggravations with this method very frequently. And if we were to see an aggravation, someone getting a little bit worse, it would be very short-lived because the repetition of the medicine is what brings the aggravation down. And I know that flies in the face of what many people would imagine, but it is absolutely so. The best way to get, I've got a little something in my eye, the best way to get an aggravation or something in which the remedy was a little bit too much for the person and we need to calm it down a little bit is to repeat the medicine. Yes, I know. Yes. Yes. And Harry says 8 weeks. Yes, and I would say 8 weeks for someone who's seasoned. But when someone is rather new to homeopathy, in that case, I would say I wouldn't go 8 weeks. I would wait to see if it's a little improved. We're not looking for gobsmacking results here, my friends. Not in the first few weeks. We're looking for long-term resolution so that we can see those 3 magic markers. Maybe only one of them will show, maybe only 2, but if you get all 3, it's a really good thing. What are the 3 magic markers? They are less intensity to the symptoms, lasting for a shorter period of time, and a larger space between each episode. Would love to see a whole class just on Anarchand, all of the Joepathy uses. You bet. I just did that for my students in the academy. I spent an entire, I think, 2.5 hours on that. That's exactly, and it would be 2.5 hours. Yes. So should you be interested, our academy is starting up in the next year for the next class to start up very soon. So if you have my email, if we have your email address, then watch for it. And if we don't, then contact my office, respond to my blog, and we will have you in our list. And then we will, by all means, let you know when the next academy class begins, should you be so interested. All right, let's see what we've got. People are answering each other's questions. I love it. This is exactly what should happen, my friends. We need to help each other. Yeah, and Bovista is a great medicine for food intolerances too, and it's actually my first choice. It is my first choice. Now, Bovista doesn't necessarily have chronic fatigue. It has food intolerances. It has ailments from dairy. You're absolutely right. And fatigue, but it doesn't, Bovista does not have fatigue. Nat carb is the one that has fatigue. So fatigue is a critical aspect of the case. Then we're going to focus on more likely on nat carb. However, I often see that by using something like Bovista 200 or Athusa, these are all remedies that I discuss in great detail in my Good Gut, Bad Gut course. When we see these medicines starting to act, many of the satellite conditions start melting away. Satellite condition might indeed be fatigue, but it may not be one of the hierarchy of conditions that we're looking at originally. So in other words, someone might have fatigue, but they don't really report it. It's not that big. It's not a big deal. It only comes and goes. It happens only occasionally. It happens after being in the sun or if they get a headache from the sun. You see how this starts to fit together? So the new, we don't have new courses. We've got the courses are always, you just go to my website and you can go to, what is it listed under? On my website? It is called the Learning Center. And you'll find all the courses that are constantly ongoing. But then we do have the Academy, and that will be starting up very soon. Okay. Let's just see some of these questions. Why do so many homeopaths suggest taking a remedy 3x in 24 or 3 times in 24 hours and then waiting? It's the way they do it. Everybody, listen, homeopathy is a very broad medicine. It's been around since the late 1700s, and it started in Germany with Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, then it went to Paris, to France, and then from there spread all over Europe, and then down to India from Germany, and then across to the US, into Boston and New York and Philadelphia, and yes, Buffalo, my hometown, and across the United States and down to South America. And it is used in many different ways because it's so old. It's been used in many hospitals. There were many homeopathic hospitals. It's used in clinics, in private practice. And that's why when I say to you, get accustomed to going to a materia medica that you'll find online, because you'll find slightly different versions of the same medicine used, because a lot of the information in these materia medicas is based on their clinical experience. In my clinical experience, I find that Natrum carbonicum is a very good medicine for everything that I've talked about. But when it comes to food intolerances, I usually think of Bovista first. Okay. All right. People are helping each other. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Did I say there were corrections in one of the Banerjee protocol books? Yes, and that's going to be coming out in my blog very soon. I think it's maybe next week or so. Pretty sure. Is it the blog? Hold it. It might be that we're putting it out to the mighties with all of the corrections that we have found so far, and those who have given us information that they have noticed. And I went through it page by page as well. So many between me and others, I think we've got it nailed. Okay, take the allergic class. It's gold. Yes, thank you, Leanne. Yeah, I think the allergic class. If someone's got allergies, that's exactly the class that they need to take, because I explain not just the protocols, but also case management. Yes, case management. You understand what case management is, my friends? It's one thing to know what medicine to use, but now what do you do after you've used it for 6 to 8 weeks? Now what? What are you observing? You have to know this. You have to know what it is you're observing and what to do next with what you have observed. Okay? All righty. Let's see what else we've got here. I think people are responding, so I don't know what questions I need to ask. Debilitating fatigue from her son, burning skin. Yeah, that could certainly be a representative in this medicine. You bet. Errors in the legit Banerjee book? Yes, there are errors. There are errors, especially the first edition. There's one particular error. Yes, absolutely. That I actually pointed out to Prateep Banerjee. Prateep, I said, look at this. Potency is incorrect. It was for osteomyelitis in the correct Banerjee book. It was osteomyelitis. It had been written in the first edition as hyper-Ars, Hypericum 200, Arsenicum. I think it was written as Arsenicum 3 or 6, and it should have been Arsenicum 200. So it should have been hyper-Ars 200, 200. And then it was changed. You bet. Natrum carbonicum. Argenia allergena is another item you said that is specific for locality. Yes, I like that product. I think that it's a little, I would rather use something that's a little more specific to the condition rather than specific to the area. But yes, absolutely. That's a good choice. All right, my friends, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm about to meet with 8 classes, 8 gateway classes. So if you are not enrolled in the Gateway study group, I shouldn't call them a class, it's really a study group where you meet others of like minds from all over the world, and they meet for 8 weeks, and at the end of 8 weeks, then I meet with them and I answer their questions. And I have 8 classes, so my guess is we're going to have about 70, 80 people tonight that I'll be meeting with, and I'm looking forward to it. The bigger the class, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Because this, my friends, is a movement. It is. This is not just information. This is actually a movement, because it is important that we get this information out, that we establish this in our homes, that it is put back in the hands of mothers and grandmothers and fathers too, but more often it's mothers and grandmothers. It needs to be in the hands of the families before they catch on, whoever they might be. Get it established. Own your information and own your medicines. Then eat good food and relax and know that you are safe, because that's what this medicine gives us. It relieves us of the anxiety. And so with that, I say good night to all of you. God bless you all. And I'll see you next week.